Good morning, family, or good night for some. It's like 1 a.m., midnight, right? Listen, I needed to share this. I want to encourage someone. Um, it brought a lot of encouragement to my spirit. There's been some warfare that I've been experiencing over the past few days, but I was seeking understanding. I like to understand because when you have more knowledge, you can understand exactly how you are supposed to respond sometimes, or how you shouldn't respond, or exactly the direction God wants us to take, or why things are happening the way they're happening, right? And a lot of times the opposition, it helps us understand our purpose. But when I woke up, I'd prayed about some things that I'd been experiencing over these past few days, some arrows that have been coming at me, and I just wanted more clarity and understanding. And when I woke up tonight, immediately when I woke up, what came in my spirit was, when I came back to this consciousness, what came to my spirit was, they wanted to destroy. They were not afraid of Abraham. They were not afraid of Avram. They were not afraid of who he was. They were afraid of who he was to become. They weren't afraid of Avram. They were afraid of who he was to become. And so sometimes when you think about those things and you ponder on many of your warfare, much of your warfare from that perspective, it will shine a light and bring clarity on some of the way that the warfare comes at you in many ways, right? And so Abram was born to his father in a late age. Abram's father, Terah, was 70, and he bore Abram. And so Abram was just a baby. He didn't even know his purpose at the time, but he was under attack by the darkness. They wanted to destroy him, right? And so anyway, I'm just going to quickly read this here in Jasher chapter 8. And I pray that this encourages you in your situation and on your walk. Evil is very real. The wicked do sit and watch the righteous. They plot against the righteous. When folk know that you're gifted, there's an anointing on your life, everybody's heart is not with you. Sometimes people do go and they dig up information spiritually. They want to know more about your purpose if you're not going in full details, telling them every single thing God has, revealed to you and shown you. And it's not for good reasons. They want to learn, and they can look at you and say, how he could choose her, how he could choose him. I can do that. They don't have a clear idea of who they are. A lot of wicked people, they're empty on the inside. When the Nephilim come down, they snatch souls. Remember what we read? They snatch souls, innocent souls at their conception. Innocent souls that are not properly guarded and loved and prayed over. And so that's the same thing with the wicked ones in the earth in these end times. They don't have a clear vision, a clear purpose, but they will try to. They will try to steal it. And you can see them doing different things, mimicking, copying, stealing, even sending arrows while they're doing it. But no one can really steal the purpose because it's spiritual inside of all of us. And that's one thing they don't understand. But here's where you can forfeit, is when you fall into willful sin, you are not repentant, and you continue to allow the flesh to lead rather than be spirit-led. When we are walking in the spirit, regardless of what anyone thinks from looking outwardly and judging you outwardly, but when you are truly walking in the spirit, no one can steal anything from you. They can only steal the things outwardly. But what's inside of you, what God has specifically chosen us for, they can't take anything. They may not think you talk right. They may not think you look right. They may not think you dress right. It don't matter what man think. When God has specifically chosen someone for a purpose, and you are sincerely surrendered to God, you are willing to continuously surrender to him daily and walk with him innocently, authentically, he is molding, shaping, and teaching you as you grow. Because sometimes you won't even realize what your purpose really is or how serious and how big it is until you start to receive much of this opposition, and who some of the people that the enemy can actually get to influence to use them to oppose you. That's what sometimes makes you take it more seriously, because when you see how serious the warfare that comes is, sometimes you'll look and be like, what is it? It ain't me. It can't be. It ain't. Remember what Moses told God, get somebody else to do it. In so many words, we went over that story, but let me get to this and share this in Jasher. Nothing new under the sun. And this is not for everybody. Okay, so this might go over some people's head, or you can click off. If nothing has resonated with you so far, then go ahead and click off, because this ain't for you. You know, this is only those who have been battling warfare on a level that has, you know, you've been, it's a new, and you've seen arrows come at you in ways, and from folk who you may have been surprised about, or you wanted understanding, or try to figure out, you know, what is it so much about me, right? That they have to secretly conspire and form these groups, and people that don't even know me are discussing me, not in a good way. I'm talking to people that know you that may be discussing you in a good way. But when you can know, and God can let you see, and you pick up on people that don't know you have been discussing you in a negative way, sometimes it ain't about you, baby. It's about what you carry. It's about your purpose. And it's about how them folk been studying you, who are being influenced to try to stop what you will become. So you need to take it serious and stay on one accord on that thin and narrow path, and be intentional about fighting for your purpose and growing stronger and deeper in God. Let it birth the warrior in you, not promote fear in you. God don't give us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. And see, it's one thing to try to understand, fight an enemy you can't see, because darkness, they hide their hand, they're secretive, they're silent. They have silent alliances, and they think it's a game, but God sits high and looks low, right? And as you're able to overcome them or move around them, ignore them, not fall into their traps, they know it's somebody helping you. Sometimes their groups will begin to turn on each other, but it's really the Spirit of the Lord protecting you. So anyway, let me get in this. I'm just going to read the whole of chapter 8, book of Jasher, and I pray that you also meditate on it further from here and go back and study even more. You know, let it encourage you. Book of Jasher, chapter 8, if you have the Sefer. That's what I'm reading from. And it was in the night that Avram was born, that all the servants of Terach and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terach. Conjurers, diviners, soothsayers, tarot card readers, all of that, right? And they rejoiced with him on that night. And when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house, and Terach lifted up their eyes toward when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terach, they lifted up their eyes toward heaven that night to look at the stars. And they saw, and behold, one very large star came from the east and ran in the heavens, and he swallowed up the 4 stars from the kingdom. He swallowed up the 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight. And the sages understood this matter, and they knew its import. You see? So they could see too. Those who operate in darkness, those who operate in that thing, in those dark ways that God doesn't approve of, they can see. they understood this matter, and they knew its import, meaning its importance of it. Verse 4. And they said to each other, this only betokens the child that has been born to Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth, he and his children forever. He and his seed will slay great kings and inherit their lands. And the wise men and conjurers went home that night. And in the morning, all these wise men and conjurers rose up early and assembled in an appointed house. And they spoke and said to each other, behold, the sight that we saw last night is hidden from the king. It has not been made known to him. And should this thing get known to the king in the latter days, he will say to us, why have you concealed this matter? Why have you concealed this matter from me? And then we shall all suffer death. Therefore now let us go and tell the king the sight which we saw and the interpretation thereof, and we shall then remain clear. Verse 8. And they did so. And they all went to the king and bowed down to him to the ground. And they said, may the king live, may the king live. We heard that a son was born to Terah, the son of Nachor, the prince of your host. And we yesternight came to his house, and we ate and drank. And we ate and drank and rejoiced with him that night. And when your servants went out from the house of Terah to go to our respective homes to abide there for the night, we lifted up our eyes to heaven, and we saw a great star coming from the east, and the same star ran with great speed and swallowed up 4 great stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And your servants were astonished at the sight which we saw, and were greatly terrified. And we made our judgment upon the sight, and knew by our wisdom the proper interpretation thereof, that this thing applies to the child that is born to Terah, who will grow up and multiply greatly, and become powerful, and kill all the kings of the earth, and inherit all their lands, he and his seed forever. And now our Adonai and King, behold, we have truly acquainted you with what we have seen concerning this child. If it seems good to the king to give his father value for this child, we will slay him before he shall grow up and increase in the land, and his evil increase against us, that we and our children perish through his evil. And see, so what they're doing is they're calling evil good and good evil. They're trying to make themselves look good and call Abram evil from what they saw his purpose was. You see, so them seeing what his purpose is to come. Get down. No. Them seeing what his purpose was, how big his purpose was, how big he was supposed to become. They're afraid of him. They don't want him to grow up, because now his purpose will be bigger than theirs. And so what they want to do is they're advising the king, let's destroy him before he grows up into his purpose and now destroys us, right? There is no love, right? Because perfect love casts out all fear. Not only are they afraid of him, they want to stay where they are and not be, not allow his star to be fully birthed, to his purpose to fully grow out, right? And so and they're calling it evil, right? Verse 14. And the king heard their words, and they seemed good in his sight. And he sent and called for Terah, and Terah came before the king. And the king said to Terah, I have been told that a son was yesternight born to you, and after this manner was observed in the heavens at his birth. And now, therefore, give me the child. Terah was 70 years old when he had Abram. And so the king is telling him he was happy when Abram was born, right? He was happy he had his boy, right? And so check this out now. So the king is saying, and now, therefore, give me the child that we may slay him before his evil springs up against us, and I will give you for his value. So he's saying, give me your son that you just had the other night before his evil springs up, really before his purpose is manifested in the earth. We don't want him to grow out and attain and live until he reaches his purpose. Nothing new under the sun. This is why, if you've noticed, the level of warfare has been heavy, right? They was not afraid of who Abram was. They was afraid of who he was to become. I will give you, so now the king is telling Terah, I'm going to slay him and I'll give you for his value. I'll pay you, meaning I'm going to give you money. Your house full of silver and gold. Verse 17. And Terah answered the king and said to him, my Adonai and king, I have heard your words, and your servant shall do all that his king desires. But my Adonai and king, I will tell you what happened to me yesternight, that I may see what advice the king will give his servant. And then I will answer the king upon what he has just spoken. And the king said, speak. Verse 19. And Terah said to the king, Aon, son of Mor, came to me yesternight, saying, give unto me the great and beautiful horse that the king gave you, and I will give you silver and gold and straw and provender for its value. And I said to him, wait till I see the king concerning your words. And behold, whatever the king says, that I would do. And now, my Adonai and king, behold, I have made this thing known to you, and the advice which my king will give unto his servant, that I will follow. And the king heard the words of Terah, and his anger was kindled, and he considered him in the light of a fool. And the king answered Terah, and he said to him, are you so silly and ignorant or deficient in understanding to do this thing, to give your beautiful horse for silver and gold? See, what Terah was doing was, even though Terah, I'm still not a fan of him, because he, later, this ain't, in this chapter, but later he betrayed, as Abram grew up and destroyed all of his idols and stuff like that. Abraham had the spirit of righteousness in him. When he destroyed his father's idols, Terah turned on Abraham. He didn't have his sons back. But anyway, so what he's doing is he's trying to make an attempt to stand up to keep his son. So he's asking the king this about the horse, because the king gave him the beautiful, valuable horse, right? And so he's going to see what the king's response is about the horse. And then you'll see he's using that for Abram. He's going to say, okay, well, my son, But anyway, and so the king says, are you so silly, ignorant, or deficient in understanding to do this thing, to give your beautiful horse for silver and gold, or even for straw and provender? Verse 24. Are you so short of silver and gold that you should do this thing, because you cannot obtain straw and provender to feed your horse? And what is silver and gold to you, or straw and provender, that you should give away that fine horse which I gave you, like which there is none to be had on the whole earth? So he's asking him that question about a horse, right? So you surely, his son is worth more than the horse. Verse 25. And the king left off speaking, and Terah answered the king, saying, like unto this has the king spoken to his servant. I beseech you, my Adonai and king, what is this which you did say unto me, saying, give your son, that we may slay him, and I will give you silver and gold for his value? What shall I do with silver and gold after the death of my son? Who shall inherit me? So he's saying, if money don't mean nothing to me for the horse, then why do you think, giving me money for my son, what's that going to do to me? Money, if money is nothing, if money is nothing to me, why would you offer me money for my son? Who shall inherit me? Surely then at my death, the silver and gold will return to my king who gave it. Because what he's saying now, giving my son away, he's saying, I love my son. Then when I give him away, then I'm, and I die, then who going to inherit me? Because you'll get your money right back. Because giving my son away is going to break my heart. You understand? Sometimes people die from a broken heart. But that's just the analogy that we were saying. Verse 27. And when the king heard the words of Terah and the parable which he brought concerning the king, it grieved him greatly. And he was vexed at this thing, and his anger burned within him, meaning he got angry because, Terah put this to him. And verse 28, and Terah saw that the anger of the king was kindled against him. And he answered the king, saying, all that I have is in the king's power. Whatsoever the king desires to do to his servant, that let him do. Yet even my son, he is in the king's power without value in exchange, he and his two brothers that are older than he. And the king said to Terah, no, but I will purchase your younger son for a price. So he's trying to, this is where narcissism, right? The spirit of control. And I always say, I tie narcissism to the spirit of Jezebel, Haman, right? and Saul, and we can tie it to the king as well, right? Because you see this strong need and dominance for control for Terach to be submissive to what he wanted, even though it's very cruel and just is not natural for somebody to say, just give me your son, let me kill him, because we see what his purpose is going to be and we don't want him to grow up to achieve his purpose, and I'm going to pay you for it. That's not a something that somebody can just easily come into agreement with. But he got angry. No emotions, see, no empathy, no compassion, no ability to reason. I've heard what my soothsayer said and I want to destroy him, and he's mad because now Terach is trying to put up somewhat of a defense. And verse 29, and the king said to Terach, no, but I will purchase your younger son for a price. And Terach answered the king, saying, I beseech you, my Adonai, Lord, my Lord, and king, to let your servant speak a word before you, and let the king hear the word of his servant. And Terach said, let my king give me 3 days' time till I consider this matter within myself and consult with my family concerning the words of my king. And he pressed the king greatly to agree to this. And the king hearkened, he listened to Terach, and he did so, and he gave him 3 days' time. And Terach went out from the king's presence, and he came home to his family and spoke to them all the words of the king. And the people were greatly afraid. And it was in the 3rd day that the king sent to Terach, saying, send me your son for a price, as I spoke to you. And you should, and should you not do this, I will send and slay all you have in your house, so that you shall not even have a dog remaining. You see the tyranny, the evil, the oppression, nothing new under the sun. The righteous were always oppressed. Well, I don't even consider Terach so righteous, but he was Avram's father. His seed bore the light that came into the world. But he really wasn't a man of strong backbone. But he was in some wicked stuff as well. As you continue to read, you'll see. But the righteous were always oppressed by those in power, by the wicked. Nothing new under the sun. Spirit of oppression came over that household. Now, if he doesn't surrender his only boy that was just born that other night, born to him in his age of 70, then now his whole household is going to be slaughtered. And the king has all the power in his hands. You see, the wicked use their earthly power to oppress those, who are beneath them. And so all the people were greatly afraid. Verse 32. And it was in the 3rd day that the king sent to Terach, saying, send me your son for a price, as I spoke to you. And should you not do this, I will send and slay all you have in your house, so that you shall not even have a dog remaining. And Terach hastened, as the thing was urgent from the king. And he took a child from one of his servants, which his handmaid had born to him that day. And Terach brought the child to the king and received value for him, right? So it wasn't Avram. He brought a different child to save his boy Avram, right? Verse 34, and Yahuwah was with Terach in this matter. God was with him to protect Abraham. So his spirit was being influenced by Yahuwah. And Yahuwah was with Terach in this matter, that Nimrod might not cause Avram's death, right? The king was Nimrod. And the king took the child from Terach, and with all his might dashed his head to the ground. No mercy, no love. So those who really have re-strategized, when you feel that evil, when you feel those evil arrows, understand they don't give up. He did not care at all. This is why I tell you, where there is no love, there is the Spirit of God does not reside, baby. In spite of our imperfections, none of us are perfect. We're striving for perfection. But when you don't see the fruit of the Spirit, that love, that joy, sometimes peace comes under attack as well. Joy comes under attack. But at the core of an individual, it just takes a little time. You can tell a bitter, hateful heart from a heart that is genuinely have love in it. able to empathize, have compassion on other people. Hateful hearts have no mercy. There is no way somebody with the love of God could be so intimidated by the purpose of this baby that they thought carried the light. He thought he was destroying the one that carried the light. And see, this is why God hides his people or keeps you low, right? Keeps you low. Don't ever try to compete. When you see people envy you and they're doing wicked things, don't ever try to compete with your adversaries, baby. Let them have it. You stay low. Take the low road. Because see, what God has for you is for you. And nobody can slow it down or stop it. They may try to delay it a little bit, but everything still happens according to God's timing. Because God can send the angels to do things within the earth and manipulate scenes and situations. Trust me, it's nothing new under the sun. When Sennacherib was bullying Hezekiah, and I know I'm going off topic, but we almost finished. But when Sennacherib was bullying Hezekiah, reminding him of his strength, what he'd already done in the land, Hezekiah was the king. But Sennacherib wanted him to willfully humble himself and submit to him. See? He wanted them to surrender to him. And they wouldn't do it. Just like Haman wanted Mordecai to bow down to him. Mordecai wouldn't do it. He was a man of integrity at his own mind. But he didn't disrespect Haman in no kind of way. He just wouldn't bow down to him. You're not my, leader. I'm not bowing down to no human being. I can respect you, but it was against his religion. And Haman went his dark ways. He used his mind to re-strategize on a way to get him back. Evil people do this. They can be in the church. They can be in minister or leadership positions. They know their hearts are dark. They get so pissed off and angry with the righteous, or they see your purpose. They study you in the spirit with their little tricky ways, in witches and warlocks, in positions of prophets and prophetess. And you got some of the God's people who don't even know what they carry, surrendering their soul to another human being. Chasing after another human being, wanting a leader so bad. This is why it suffered God. When we studied in the beginning, we studied, I forgot the name of the book, but we were reading, we saw where in the sealed portion, it suffered God to have man make all these religions. God wanted the people, he wanted us to come to him. So think it not strange when things are being shaken up in organized religions and people are running back to their Father, picking up the books and beginning to study for the first time in their lives. It's happening. God is calling his people back to him. Some, many, when you've been marking your forehead, you may not be perfect. None of us are. We strive for it. But it's something in your spirit. You got to keep getting in that word. You got to keep going back to God. You got to keep digging deeper. And it's probably people that hate you for it. It's probably people that shut you down for it. And so I got off all track, but when Sennacherib was bullying Hezekiah, what did God do? You see, they can try to delay you, hinder you. They can pray, and when you think about it, listen at the words people say. I don't care how strong somebody talk. No righteous person, no real man or woman of God is going to be so concerned that the influence of their adversary, like those who they just pay attention to other people's influence. Let their influence go down. Let mine grow. That's not important. All things happen according to God's timing. If he's the one shaping and molding your path, we know that the wicked will always be amongst us. But when God opens your eyes to who your adversaries are, he's doing that not to break your heart, baby. Not to hurt you, not to make you fear, but through knowledge shall the just be delivered. And sometimes you need to know so that you can know how to move or run and hide yourself. Not because you're afraid. The Bible says when the righteous man foresees trouble, he hides himself. Not because he's a coward, but because he's righteous and he's wise. When Saul kept trying to pursue David moved around Saul. He ran to preserve his life. And it hurt him to see how evil Saul's heart was against him. Envy and jealousy is as cruel as the grave. Saul knew David's purpose. He saw his strength. And he wanted to destroy David, even though he knew he was already on the wrong side of God because of his disobedience. He knew God had already demoted him and promoted David. It was spiritual, but he was still king. He still had power in his hands. You understand? Nothing new under the sun. Some of you need to be thankful for your isolation, for your wilderness period. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not the problem. Why I can't fit in with nobody? Why they don't like me? Why they steady doing mean things? Why they trying to break my spirit? Why they doing this? God has you right where he wants you to be, in a place of protection. Never created to fit in. You were created to stand out. We are peculiar people. All right? So think it not strange when it seems like those who have more than you will try to destroy you. They only appear as if they're prospering in their wicked ways because they have twisted the minds of those who don't have eyes to see, to believe that material possessions and the finer things in life represents the favor of God and true prosperity, when it doesn't. True prosperity is within the fruits of the Spirit. And so anyway, when Sennacherib, I don't think I even finished yet, I kept going off, was bullying Hezekiah. Hezekiah surrendered to the feet of the Father. Right? He knew Sennacherib had power. And God sent the angels to defeat Sennacherib's men of valor, meaning the strongest men that he had. When they came out the next morning, God, it happened overnight. The men were destroyed. Sennacherib was ashamed. He had to retreat back. See? When folk unrighteously come against you, try to make you surrender, try to break your spirit, you just keep on walking. Don't try to fight back. Get on their level with evil. You just keep on walking. Let them think they're winning, and you just keep on submitting it to God. God gonna keep opening your eyes. You ain't got to open your mouth and go and try to reason with nobody, because you will never be able to reason. When somebody hates you for what's inside of you, do you think David would have been able to go and sit before Saul and say, listen, why you don't like me? Why you keep trying to kill me? Trying to talk to somebody whose heart is dark is a waste of life force. They've already made their decisions. There are wheat and tares in this earth. There are those who operate from the spirit of truth, those who operate from the spirit of error. And they are going to try to find fault and bring trouble to the children of light. They are the Decadarchi, the fallen angels, the Nephilim. They're influenced by them. Some have they're happy for those little powers that they get, right? Nothing new under the sun, but it is very real. Evil is real. Warfare is real. So you're going to fold, or you're going to keep studying the scriptures. That's where our power and our clarity comes from. Loving God for real. And the more you love on him and talk to him, he sees your innocence. Let them plot. Let them laugh. Don't play the game with them. Follow the money. Sometimes you'll see corruption. You'll see where the corruption is. And it's so sad when you see it within the church. But anyway, Sennacherib, Hezekiah didn't have to lift a finger. I don't care how folk come at you. You just keep trusting God. So let's see, verse 34. So Terah brought another child. It wasn't Abram. Verse 34, and Yahuwah was with Terah in this matter, that Nimrod might not cause Abram's death. And the king took the child from Terah and with all his might dashed his head to the ground, for he thought it had been Avram. No mercy, no love in his heart, hateful. A righteous person would never do that. A child of light, I don't care what a child done, I don't care what you see about a child of light will never destroy, crucify an innocent being, period. Never. And this was concealed from him from that day, and it was forgotten by the king, as it was the will of providence not to suffer Avram's death. Verse 35. And Terah, this is the last verse. Oh no, verse 36 is the last verse. Verse 35. And Terah took Avram, his son, secretly together with his mother and nurse, and he concealed them in a cave, and he brought them their provisions monthly. So you see, the wilderness, going back to the wilderness. Sometimes you find yourself out of isolation and then back in isolation, back in your wilderness. It's God's protection. You are spiritually gifted. You know what God is showing you. And you can't listen to too many outside voices when you're walking with the Spirit of God. Sometimes you try to think, oh, well, maybe I need to go and get a coach. I go and get counseling. They have their worldly way. If they're not deeply rooted in the Spirit and the Word of God, what they going to counsel you? They're going to counsel you out away from the Word of God. They're going to tell you, well, you going in isolation. It's a sign of your trauma. It's a sign of, you not healed. When sometimes it could be God protecting you from what you see, from what you are discerning. They were placed in isolation to protect the child of light. Because if anybody knew, if they knew that he was still living, and the older he got, the more he grew towards his purpose. So the dark ones had no knowledge, right? And so as God is growing you up, many of the things he's showing you, you may have been so free-spirited, love to share, love to talk. But when you see how the evil ones have eyed you, and they ain't got no love, they ain't got no mercy, it teaches you. The opposition trains us. And you have to disengage and retreat. And you learn that everything is meant to be shared. You learn the importance of keeping certain things private. You learn the importance and benefit of being in isolation from time to time. Evil is very real, baby. But there is no power that can override the power of God. And I'm a living witness. Verse 36. And Yahuwah was with Avram in the cave, and he grew up, and Avram was in the cave 10 years. And the king and his princes, soothsayers and sages, thought that the king had killed Avram. You see? Nothing new under the sun. And so that concludes Jasher chapter 8. They were not afraid of who Avram was. They were afraid of who he was going to become. And they wanted to eliminate him before he could reach his purpose. And God protected him by having his father place them in the wilderness, isolation, for all those years. No friends, just his caretakers, isolated, so that the purpose could be protected. I hope that encourages you. You're not alone. You're right where God wants you to be. Don't look outwardly. Look inwardly and in the Word of God, and keep growing. Stay strong. Trust God. Trust God. He's with you. He is protecting us. He's with us. He's protecting us. And there's no power greater than the power of God. And the more he opens your eyes, you learn the power of silence and following the Spirit for real. Real is rare. Fake is truly everywhere. It ain't hard to find fake. Go out there and look. Everybody got a word from God. But you need to understand God's purpose for your life. And you stay in your little lane. Don't compete with your adversaries. Don't try to reason with them. Now you see their heart is dark. There's no love there because the Spirit of God is not there. I don't care if they have a title in the church. I don't care if they have hundreds of thousands of millions of people following them, influencing them. You follow what God has placed in your spirit, and you let the Spirit of God lead and guide you. You understand? This ain't no popularity contest. If it was, then tell them they win. You win. You ain't in it. You ain't competing. Don't play the game with wickedness. You stay submitted to the Spirit of God and find the little things that bring you joy in your life. Find your happiness, and you just stay where God has you. Because when you stay under the shadow of the Most High, you will be protected. There is protection and true surrender to God. Don't matter what folks say, they talk about you, they laugh at you. When they can't find nothing on you, they'll create lies. They'll create things about you. Let God fight them battles. You just keep on walking. You just keep on walking and be encouraged and understand how big your purpose really is. The warfare should teach you that. When you have people in higher positions, people who appear to have more than you, throwing arrows your way, subliminally, secretly watching you, people taking little things from you, dishonoring you, you just keep on walking. They were not afraid of who he was. They were afraid of who he was going to become. He didn't even know, but they'd already seen his star, right? So anyway, I hope that encourages you. Keep all your trust in God. Be honest in all your efforts. Not perfect. If you make a mistake, it's okay. Brush the dust off. Acknowledge it. Learn from it. And then keep on going. We've all made mistakes, right? Shout out to the perfect ones, but we wish we were perfect, but we just striving for perfection. Anyway, y'all have a blessed day. If nobody, or a blessed night, morning, whatever, Shabbat Shalom, family. Nobody has told you that they love you. Then understand your little country bumpkin sister loves you, right? Your little country bumpkin sister loves you. We are the light of the world. Don't never let the light grow dark. Keep shining bright. And we know, Matzah the Lamb, Jesus Yeshua, that blood is the only blood that has power.